Hello and welcome to a new knitting vlog episode of Colibri by Johanna. I'm Johanna and today I will give you a huge update of what has happened in the last 4 to 6 weeks, as I have been a little bit absent over here on YouTube talking about my current finished and planned projects. It's already 2026. It's the 3rd of January, Saturday. Actually, I'm still on holiday. My kids are home as well. My husband is not working too, but I took a few hours this Saturday to go down to my office to get a few things done and to film finally a new episode of my knitting vlog, as I missed it a lot to talk with you here on YouTube about my current projects on my knitting needles, about the finished projects like the Odette sweater I am wearing, or my planned project, which are only existing in yarn balls and yarn deliveries in my office. So I'm so glad to be here again, and I will start to give you a huge update of what has happened in the second half of November and in the entire December. So November was a little bit stressful because I decided to have 1.5 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's Eve and not doing any work. And as a knitwear designer, this involves a lot of planning because I'm self-employed. I'm mostly a one-woman business. Of course, I have some help here and there, but most of the things I am doing myself on my own. And if I'm not working, there's nothing happening. But I really felt the need that I needed to take a little break, to have some time off, to not think about emails and admin stuff or taxes needs to be organized. I just wanted to spend some quiet, calm days with my families, my knitting needles, of course, and my friends, and good food, and celebrating Christmas and enjoying the days between the years. I had maybe the most stressful December since ever because I had to organize 3 test knits who all needed to start before Christmas so that the patterns can be released in February, March. So this was the challenge of December. I always want to provide yarn support. That's my most important goal for my test knitters. And if a test knit involves yarn support, it's so much more organization at my end because I have to talk about the conditions with the yarn companies. Sometimes I have to organize the shipment from the yarn companies to the test knitters. And if that's the case, I have to organize the color choices from the test knitters. So organizing test knits with yarn sponsoring can take maybe an entire working day. At least it felt like this. This was one challenge. Then there were, of course, a few delays because I was not the only person who was busy in December. The yarn companies were busy as well, of course. It was very challenging to organize everything in time. And then when starting a test knit, of course, there are popping up some issues with the pattern where the pattern might not be clear enough for the test knitters, and that's the most important part of the test knit, to find those passages where the pattern is not clear enough. So it's most important that the test knit does not start on December 23rd, maybe 1 or 2 weeks before Christmas, so that my tech editor and me have enough time to correct the pattern and to send the update to all test knitters so that we can all have a break during Christmas, my tech editor and me, and the test knitters can knit in their own pace and with enough time and with the correct pattern their samples of my design. And in addition to this crazy test knit organization, pattern writing, sample knitting time I had in December, I still have 2 little children who were of course very sick in December. I think it's the kindergarten peak of all flus and illnesses out there. And of course my children were sick for quite a while now, shortly before Christmas, and when everything was so messy around here. And my husband, who is working as a psychotherapist, December is not the best month as well, because you want to see all the patients before the Christmas holidays, and for most of them the holidays are challenging times where some problems can pop up. So it was most important that he could provide a good treatment and to see them as often as possible. We were both working a lot. The children needed us a lot. So it was very, very stressful, and I doubted my decision of taking a break and thought maybe it would have been better to just work a little bit in December, a little bit during the holidays, and then my stress level wouldn't be that high during the stressful weeks in December, but then I wouldn't have had a break. And I'm talking to you after my break, or my break is nearly over. And I think it was a good decision that I stick to our plan to finish everything before Christmas and then to have 1.5 weeks off to rest and to gather all my strengths for a new year full of new designs and ideas. And I'm feeling so inspired and creative again. So I think it was a really, really good choice to have this break. But let's talk about the designs which were on my needles and which were meant to be turned into test knits in December. The first design is straight here with me. It's a very, very classic design. It's a striped sweater. No revolution here. In a very classic color combination and with a very classic fit. You can see it's a boxy fit, slightly oversized with drop shoulders and a crew neck and a double folded collar. And we have stripes all over with ribbed cuffs. And when the body is long enough, there will be a ribbed hem as well. But what's the exciting point of this design? It's the stripes, because they are not only normal stripes or garter stitch stripes or something else. I worked them with E-cords. As you can see here, these are all E-cord stripes, creating much depth and texture to this design. And of course, it's a labor of love to work these E-cord stripes, but I think the result is so worth it, as you have a very unique, very special sweater design, which is looking amazing when you are looking closer. And it has this beautiful shoulder shaping here as well. You can see it here. And on the other side, of course, as well too. And it really makes the sweater very, very special in my opinion. And the good thing is that it doesn't take as long to work the E-cord stripes as you might think at first glance. I was a little bit surprised when I was tracking my time, because I thought it takes like 3 hours to work one E-cord stripe along the body of my sweater, but luckily it was only 25 minutes for my size. Of course, this is a size M. The larger sizes in a size M might need a little bit more than 25 minutes, or knitters who don't knit as fast E-cord edging as I do will also need a little bit more. So I think you might need the time of a fingering weight sweater to work up this garment, even if the gauge isn't fingering. It's maybe a more committed project to finish, but I think it's a very, very rewarding project, creating a beautiful wardrobe staple. The yarn I am using for this design is one of my favorite combinations from Lana Grossa. I'm using 2 strands of yarn held together, 1 strand of silk hair, the silk mohair yarn from Lana Grossa, and 1 strand of Ecopuno, which is a very, very nice blend consisting of 72% cotton, 17% merino wool, and 11% alpaca. And because of the cotton, it's the perfect sweater all the year round, because it's still very breathable, but it's still very light. It's so much fun to knit with this yarn because of the baby alpaca and the merino yarn. I think it's not baby alpaca, it's baby alpaca. It has been correct. It's so much fun to knit with this yarn, and I really enjoy wearing the yarn combination created by these 2 yarn qualities. And as a contrast color, I'm using a very, very dark blue shade. Sometimes it's looking even black, but I really, really love this shade. The pattern made it into test knitting shortly after Christmas. Unfortunately, there was a little delay in the yarn deliveries for the test knitters, so that we decided to postpone the test knit for after Christmas to provide the best support possible, especially in the beginning of the test knit in case there are some issues. So I'm very, very happy to share this pattern with you just in time for spring. I think we have scheduled the release for the end of February. There are still a few weeks left before the pattern will be released. This gives me time to work up a second sample of the design, and I'm going to show you the color combination of my second sample now because I love it so much. This is the color combination for my second sample of the Bridget sweater. Of course, I haven't not yet named the sweater. It's called Bridget, and I think it's a perfect name for a sweater like this. And this is a perfect color combination for a pattern named Bridget Sweater. It's the same main color as for the classy blue version, but the stripes, the E-cord stripes, will be in this bright pink shade. When I was ordering the yarn, I wasn't sure if those pink shades will match. And when I was unpacking the parcel, I thought, oh my gosh, it's not matching at all. But after a few days of accommodating to those 2 shades, I think it will work out perfectly fine when knitting with 2 strands of yarn held together in these 2 shades, and it will create the most vibrant, magnetic and energetic pink shade I have seen in a long time. I'm really excited to share the pattern with you soon. The color choices of the test knitters are all so amazing, and I cannot wait to show them all to you. Then I was working on my masterpiece, if I might say so myself, because this is the most complicated pattern I have ever knitted, I have ever written down, and Laura, my tag editor, has ever checked. It's the most complicated pattern, but I think it's also maybe the most beautiful, the most sexiest. No, that's too much most. It's maybe the most beautiful, the sexiest, and the most special pattern I have ever created. This sweater is called the Carrie Sweater, and you have been so excited about the sweater pattern as I have been, because first of all it's reversible, meaning you can wear the cutouts, which are intended to be at the front part of the sweater. You can wear them at the back part as well. The first special part of this design. Then the setup is constructed that you can decide if you want to work a sweater, a tee, or a summer top. Because the body is worked first, you work in creases to shape the armholes. And this means the sleeves are worked in as a set-in sleeve shaped with German short rows, but this makes it so easy to adapt the pattern because you can leave out the sleeves at all. Then you will have a very nice tank top, and you can finish the edgings along the armholes with an E-cord edging, like for the neckline here, or for the sleeve cuffs here, or the body hem here. It's very easy to adapt the pattern to make the sweater a beautiful summer top. Or if you prefer sleeves, you can work short sleeves, for example. I imagine the sweater to be so cute as a tee when you work, for example, only the sleeve caps here and finish the sleeves here. Then you will have very short sleeves like here. And I think it will be very cute for this design. So this is the Carrie Sweater, which is luckily into test knitting as well. It came, I think, in the middle of December. Yeah. We are in test knitting and I'm using the softest yarn ever. It's Cardiff Cashmere Classic. And I decided to use cashmere yarn for this design because I figured out this might be a design which will be worn close to the skin. It's one of my fitted designs with negative ease or neutral ease, no positive ease. And if you are confident enough, you might want to wear it without a bra underneath. And then cashmere is just pure luxury for the skin. And you might enjoy working up your version of the design with the original yarn. You don't need as much yarn for this design as you will need for other sweater designs, as it is worked with negative or neutral ease and with a cropped body length. And the sleeves are fitted as well. And if you leave out the sleeves, you will need even less yarn. So for my sample in size M, I used around 7 balls of Cardiff Cashmere Classic in the shade Kaori. The smaller sizes there, I still have to wait the test knit feedback, but you can be pretty sure that you won't need more than 7 balls. And for the larger sizes, I hope to make it as less yarn usage as possible, so that you might be able to afford the original yarn as well. And then, where is the yarn for my second sample? I'm a big fan of pink, and I think this design is the perfect design for pink yarn. So I picked up this shade of Cardiff Cashmere Classic as well. It's the shade Marilyn, and in my opinion, it's the most perfect pink bubblegum shade. And I will work up a sleeveless version in this pink shade, or maybe I will add short sleeves. Not sure about that yet. I think I will just go with the flow. And the background of working up a second sample of this design is that I need to film a YouTube tutorial for this design, as it can be very challenging with all those different yarn balls and where to place which yarn ball and which strand of yarn and where to do the cable crossings and with which yarn to continue and where are our wrong sides now, or on our right sides, and the right side rows and the wrong side rows. So you can see there are a lot of changes in the pattern, and to make it as easy as possible, there will be a YouTube tutorial available in addition to the written pattern, guiding you through all the more challenging steps of the pattern. Most important information almost forgotten. I know that so many of you are so eager to cast on your version of the Carrie Sweater, and I'm so happy about it. The pattern will be released by the end of January. I think I have scheduled it for the 21st of January to be released. So set up your alarms for this day. Then the Carrie Sweater will be available as a 3-in-1 pattern. I think it's my first 3-in-1 pattern, where you will have the instructions how to adapt the pattern for the sleeveless version or for the short sleeved version, and I will try to give the yarn estimates as accurate as possible for all 3 options. The next pattern I want to show you, which went into test knitting in early December, is this one. Maybe you recognize the lace pattern. It's my favorite lace pattern. As a little hint, it's the Pierre Cardigan. Last year, it was all about Pierre. It started with a Pierre Sweater. I think it was shortly after Christmas that I was casting on my sweater version of the design, and it was released in spring 2025. And now I'm working on the cardigan version of the Pierre Sweater, Pierre Cardigan, and it has the same round neck, but we are working on a V-neck version as well. My test knitter Anne is trying out the V-neck version of the design, and I think it will be pretty amazing. So the pattern will offer both options, the V-neck or the round neck shaping for the front panels. I have my sample with the round neck, as I think I'm more the round neck type when wearing sweaters or cardigans, but I think there are many people out there who feel different about round necks and V-necks, so I think a little bit of variety wouldn't hurt anyone. It's in test knitting as well. It's scheduled to be released in February as well. And I'm so in love with the shade I have picked for my Pierre cardigan. It's the shade Copper of merino and soft silk mohair from Knitting for Olive. Especially the mohair is so beautiful in the copper shade. I think it's a little bit more copper in the merino yarn. Surprise, because it's called copper, but I think there's a difference between those two yarn qualities, and I like the copper shade of the soft silk mohair a little bit more than the copper shade of the merino. But I think in combination, it's looking absolutely beautiful, and it's creating the most beautiful copper shade I have seen ever, maybe. And I have already worked the back part and the front part for quite a while, and here you can see my favorite part of the design. It's the shoulder line where the two sections of the lace pattern are meeting and creating such a beautiful effect when the pattern seems to flow out of the shoulder lines and creates a very beautiful look. For this design, most of my local test knitters joined the test knit, and I will meet them in January for a little knit night or knit afternoon in our case, because I want to take pictures of all their beautiful samples of the design. And I think there are some amazing color choices out there. I think blue was a favorite among my test knitters, or the more cooler shades of yarns. They were a favorite for the Pierre cardigan. I still have a long way to go until it's finished, because lace on 3.5mm knitting needles takes quite a while. But I still have like 7 or 8 weeks left to finish my sample. I'm very good in time, and I'm so excited if the Pierre cardigan will be such a favorite of mine and of yours, of course, as well, like the sweater has been the last year. And because Pierre was such a favorite, we already have a Pierre top. It's already available, and I worked up the dress version with the Pierre pattern as well. And this was my first dress, and this really kicked off my dress era last year, and I have the feeling that the dress era will continue in 2026 as well, because it was so much fun to design a garment with my knitting needles and yarn which wasn't a sweater. And it was so much fun to create something so elegant, feminine, and special, like a dress with a few balls of yarn and 2 needles. The Pierre dress and the Camille dress, which I made shortly after the lace dress, won't stay my only dress patterns. I have big plans for this year. I have 2 more dress ideas already in my head. The first is already on my knitting needles. I can show it to you in a few minutes. And I want to make up a matching set, a skirt and a top. Let's see if my plans are going to work out. Let's start with my new dress in progress. As you can see, There's not yet much to see, as I just started. It was only the stitch holder. I just started the yoke of the Camille dress summer version. So we have the yoke here. I'm shaping the overlapping front parts, and we will tomorrow driving by car to my old hometown where I have studied, Marburg. And it's a 2 to 3 hours car ride, and I hope to make some progress on the yoke of the Camille dress summer version, as it's a perfect mindless car riding project. For the Camille dress, I decided to use my favorite summer yarn of last year. The yarn is called Morning Salutation Vegan Fino, yes, by Kremke, and it's my favorite summer blend because it consists of, let me tell it to you, 51% lyocell and 49% cotton, and it has a very shiny texture. It's feeling relatively cool on the skin, and it's feeling a little bit silky as well due to the lyocell. I really enjoy knitting with this yarn, but I even more enjoy wearing garments made out of this yarn. So the decision when I was thinking about which yarn to choose for the Camille dress was very easy. I know that Morning Salutation Vegan Fino would be the best yarn for the Camille dress. And then I started to work on something new, and I think it will be my favorite spring sweater. I know I always say this about my new designs in progress. This is my new favorite sweater, but this is my new favorite sweater for real. Surprise! It will be the perfect spring sweater, as it has a beautiful lace pattern. It has a most beautiful pink shade I know, and it has an incredible yarn combination from La Mana yarns. One strand of Premia, the silk mohair yarn, together with one strand of Verona from La Mana yarns. And together, these two yarn qualities create such an amazing fabric. And I have the joy to work up this beautiful sweater. I know it's looking awkwardly small, but it's intended design. The design has an intended positive ease of 30 centimeters for my size. And I think we have some flexibility here. But I know it's looking so small when working on it because of the ribbed lace pattern. I don't know how to else call it, because we have those stockinette stitch columns alternated by lace stitch columns. The lace stitch is relatively easy. The only challenge was to get neat looking stockinette stitch columns. When I was working on my swatch, the stitches were looking quite messy for the stockinette stitch part, because I have some tension issues when working in ribbed pattern. And I know that there are some tips and tricks how to deal with this, like combining continental and eastern knitting styles. I think, I don't want to say something wrong, but I think it was a combination of these two knitting ways, but I couldn't wrap my head around how this should work out, and it was slowing me so much down. But I didn't like the look either of my ribbed pattern, and I decided to work the last stitch of my ribbed pattern of each stockinette stitch column through the back loop, and this solved the problem. You can see it here. The third stitch of each stockinette stitch column is worked through the back loop, and of course you can see it that these stitches are twisted, but I think I can live with this result. It's much better than it was looking before. But I think if you can master these combined knitting styles of continental eastern, this would lead to the most perfect result. But I'm quite confident with my result as well. this is my new favorite project so far. I'm really eager to try it on for the first time. I think it will still take a few more hours, and we have quite a small gauge for this one as well. So maybe we have days of knitting still spent on this sweater design, but then I'm so excited for a first try on. And of course I will try to schedule the test knit as soon as possible to make the pattern ready for March or April, but I think we can still make it in March when I start the pattern writing task now. Before I will come to an end, because I'm already talking very long now, I'm sorry for that, but I think there were quite a few projects to talk about after such a long time of not any knitting vlog updates. But I wanted to show you a finished sweater or cardigan pattern as well, because next weekend the Hilma cardigan is going to be released, and this is my version of the design, my sample, and I'm so happy how it turned out. Of course, I still need to weave in the ends, as you can see, but you can already see that it's such a fun knitting project, and the most challenging part is to pick colors, because we work with a lot of colors for this cardigan, and it has a very, very special setup to create this offset placement of the stripes. It was such a fun knitting project. I started working on it back in October 2025 when I was on holiday in the south of France with my family, and this design will always remind me of such good foods there, seafood especially, and drinks in the afternoon sun, and a good time with my kids and my husband and our friends who came with us. So it's a special project for me, and I hope it will be a very, very fun project to everyone who need a colorful, fun and striped cardigan pattern in her or his closet. Forgot to mention the yarn, of course. It's my color-wise most favorite yarn brand. It's the brand Chaos yarn from Denmark, and they have the most vibrant, most special shades, and they all work so good together. I created a rainbow, I would say, but it's such a cool and modern and funky and fun rainbow in these colors from Chaos yarn, and the test knitters have created such beautiful versions as well, and I'm so excited to share them with all of you on Friday next week. So here we are. This was the first episode of my knitting vlog in 2026. I hope you enjoyed the roundup of all my projects which sneaked on my knitting needles in December 2025 and which are going to be released in the next 3 months of 2026. And I'm so excited for another year as a knitwear designer, creating knitting patterns and following my dream of being a fashion designer for knitwear. And yes, I will try to keep you updated more often here on YouTube, showing my work in progress, my ideas, and everything else concerning my life as a knitwear designer. I hope to see you next time, and I really hope that you have enjoyed this episode.